Today, I'm going to go pick up my friend and artist, Rob Nash. We're going to do some music for the next 3 days. Rob plays high schools, detention centers, and reserves here in Canada, and to date, he's been given more than 800 suicide notes from kids that say they don't need them anymore. You want to know how he did it? People who don't know Rob, we've worked together for a long time on music. Something that we talk about a lot is the impact that you have or are trying to have with your project. Why don't you explain, because you can explain a little bit better than me.
Yeah, sure. Well, when I was 17, I was in a big car accident and found dead on the scene, no pulse, not breathing, and obviously I came back to life. And I didn't wake up like from death.
Yeah, okay.
I'm here. I didn't wake up from death like enlightened, wanting to do something great with my life. I woke up very bitter and angry, trying to figure out why this happened to me. I'm having all these surgeries. They rebuilt my skull with metal and my chest, my shoulder, and I've got all these issues in my life, and now I'm trying to figure out why it happened to me. And for 2 years I was suicidal, didn't want to be alive, did a lot of stupid things, and none of my friends knew, none of my family knew. And I made it through that dark time. And then I thought to myself, man, how many other people are like me? They're out there having these dark thoughts and they're not talking about it, and they're keeping it inside. And I knew how dangerous that was for me. Mm-hmm. So I figured, I want to play music to tell my story. And so I started playing music, did a few albums, and finally got a big record deal. And that's the moment I got to meet this guy. And he was a part of a crew that were producing our album, and we had a few top 10 hits on the radio. And yeah, we're in the midst of this, and then we're touring with all these huge bands, and when I meet these guys, you think they're going to be so fulfilled and satisfied because they're so successful, and they were some of the emptiest people that I ever met, and I watched their families falling apart and everything, and I'm thinking, well, I don't want this for my life, I don't want to feel so empty. And I'm thinking, at some point with music, I wanted to do something different than just play to big crowds and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and then I was offered like a 9-month tour to go through like youth prisons and detention centers and some reserves and some rough schools, telling my story with my guitar. And I was like, yeah.
And you stopped by the studio.
Yep.
And you're like, you chose to do what?
Yeah. I walked away, and I don't think anyone knew really what happened to me, and everybody was expecting big things out of this album, and then I just walk away. And I was speaking at a rough school here in Vancouver, and then the studio was just down a little ways, and I walked down and I peek in the door, and you guys were sitting there, and I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. And they're all like, hey, Rob, like, what happened to you? So I was like, well, I actually walked away to go do this thing in like schools and stuff. I'm like, you want to come check it out? And
yeah. They
all came and checked it out, and it was like one of these moving moments where we got reconnected and stuff. And it was really quite amazing because for those who don't know, when you have a record deal, that doesn't mean you're a millionaire. Songs on the radio doesn't automatically mean those things. And when you rip up your record deal, you don't have millions of dollars. In fact, I didn't have a single dollar.
Quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah. I owed a ton of money.
Right.
Because I didn't finish the contract and everything. And but I followed my heart to do that. And then these guys, you specifically, you and Brian, the guy making videos, but Steve goes, man, like watching the show, like watching the impact that your concert had on these students, like, man, we're available. Like, we don't care that you don't have a record deal. We want to keep working with you. So we started working together again. This time outside of a record deal, outside of cash. It was just one of these things where, like, let's make music that could actually have an impact on people. And yeah, that was the rebirth of us. And I actually got to speak directly to Steve now.
I got your phone number.
I got his phone number.
It's crazy. We text each other. It's really insane.
Yeah.
If they only knew.
Yeah. Well, my mom texts him too, which is, got to talk to you about that at some point.
It's not weird. Right. So you started doing this. I was really... Turn off my ringer. Whoa. So I was really interested on a personal level, and when I could see the impact that you were having on kids, and to be fair, when you were starting, it was like you and a guitar.
Yeah.
Going into small places, and the things you were saying really resonated with me. I've had my own experiences with mental illness, mental health issues in my family, and I've even got some of my own, and I just thought, wow, the impact that you're having, I would really love to be a part of helping.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because like I was talking about meeting these musicians that you think are going to be so fulfilled, but it's because they stopped at success. And one thing that's kind of just come to me in the recent years is, in life, if you stop at success, you're not going to be fulfilled. But there's one other level, and that's when you go from success to significance. And significance is when your life, your music, whatever, actually has an impact on the world around you.
Well, and that's what I wanted to feel,
Right.
because I'd worked on big label records,
Yeah.
and it's fun, and I loved every second of it. But at a certain point, I started wondering, like, how do I feel amazing about my life?
Right.
And you actually gave me that opportunity.
Some people think that when you want to do something significant, you have to, like, go to Africa and build a well, right?
Yeah.
And you don't, like, with whatever you're doing. Like,
So can I cancel that flight?
Yes. But, like, with whatever you're doing, at least spend some of that time doing something for somebody else. Because I think it's in our DNA. We're supposed to have an impact on people around us. But I think we've created, like, an insignificant world where we, go to school, get a job, drink coffee, and retire. And I think especially young people, as we've seen on this tour, are starting to say, like, this is it, And a real key moment for us on the tour, we got called to a school in Ontario, and the principal phoned us and said, we've heard about your tour and the impact it has on students. We just lost a young girl to suicide, and on her suicide note, it revealed that she'd a pact, like a deal with one of her friends, like, if you kill yourself, I'll kill myself. The principal says, we don't know who it is. So we went, and it was a bizarre, eerie feeling, because there's 1,000 students sitting in front of me, and I knew somebody sitting right there was about to take their life, and I didn't know who they were, where they were sitting, and I started speaking, and I'm like, I got to this place, so I'm like, Rob, you got to speak about the fact that you were there once too. So I spoke about it. I'm like, I know someone sitting here is thinking about it. You're not alone. And this young girl came up, and she actually pulled a note out of her pocket, handed it to me, and I'm thinking, well, what is this? And she said, it's my suicide note. I was like, what? She goes, I was going to kill myself this weekend. She goes, thank you. Here, I don't need this anymore. And I'm thinking, you had your suicide note on you in class? And I started speaking with some police.
And that was a turning point, right?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Because you called me after that. Because up until that point, I think a lot of what you had talked about, which is a great message, was about making better choices and making every day count. But I don't think you were in the space of addressing mental health issues kind of on the button at that point.
Totally. It's not fun to talk about it. I hesitated because I'm thinking, man, if I say that I was there once too, like, what are the staff going to think of me? What are the students going to think of me? Because you assume everyone's going to look down on you, but it was the opposite. I spoke about it. She hands me this note, and I'm thinking, gee. And I spoke to police, and they said that usually when they come on the scene of a suicide, they said, oh, the note, very rarely is it freshly written. People write the note, and they carry it with them, waiting for somebody to push them over the edge or to reach out and say it's going to be okay. And so then it was like 2 days later, like, yeah, we had chatted and stuff. We're talking about this, and I'm thinking, well, if the statistics are true, and right now it says 1 in 5 teenagers has seriously considered suicide in the last 12 months. So then I'm thinking, talking to another school with 1,000 students.
20%.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that means somebody sitting here is thinking about it too.
Well, sure.
Yeah. So I spoke again about it. I'm like, I know somebody here is thinking about it. You're not alone. And a young guy came up and handed me a suicide note. I'm thinking, oh, this is like a thing.
Right.
So we made it a focus of our tour. We wrote a song about suicide, songs about suicide addiction, self-harm, and we started seeing these breakthroughs. And we've actually now had 819 students that handed us suicide notes after these shows.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny, but it's awesome.
Right.
Because, like, you call it a breakthrough, and that means somebody is saying to you, I don't need this anymore.
Right.
That's an incredible impact.
Well, and you read the note, and it's like, hey, Mom, Dad, if you're reading this, I'm not here anymore. And you're going,
right.
This is a note that some mom or dad would have had to read, and, oh, man, it's just the chills that you get as you're reading it, and you're thinking, and now we go back and we meet students, people see us at airports or the mall or at schools, and they walk up and say, hey, I gave you my note 4 years ago. I just want
and they're doing great.
Yeah.
Right?
Just like the power of a breakthrough, the power of song.
If you go and do something for somebody, how good it makes you feel. And it's okay to me to do that for a completely selfish reason.
Sure.
Like, I want to go do something for somebody because it makes me feel good.
Some people think you can shut off an addiction, but you can't. You have to replace every addiction. You know, and it's one thing that you learn in this stuff, in this field, right? And yeah, there's no greater addiction than doing something for somebody else. Like, again, this was supposed to be a 9-month tour. Now it's been 9 years. Again, saying this to a lot of young artists, you know, find out why you're doing this, because if you're doing it to be rich, you don't make money for a long time. If you're doing it to be famous, you don't sign autographs for a long time. But if you know, have some type of purpose, some why in what you do, is like, no, I want my music to have an impact on somebody. I want to see a tear in somebody's eye while I perform at least one of my songs. That gets you through the days when there's no money in the bank and there's no one in the crowd. Because if you've just got this mindset, I just want to be famous, well, you know, that's not going to get you through those tough days when there's no one in that crowd, you know?
No. You're talking to a general population. On my YouTube channel, I tend to be talking to artists and producers who are on the come up. And you and I have talked many times about how there seems to be a bit of a link between mental health and creative people. And one of my messages is always, just start, just do it. And a lot of people don't really look inside as to what's really going on. I have a way I think of it, and it's like stepping back and looking at my own mind in action and going, hey, wait, I'm doing that behavior that's not very healthy. Without that being able to step back, you're kind of just in this swirling.
Well, I'll tell you, the amount of times somebody walks up and says, hey, you know, I'm diagnosed with depression, or I've attempted suicide 3 times, and it's like, oh, and I've gotten to this place where I just say, so do you dance? Do you paint? Do you sing? What do you do? Yeah, I'm a dancer. How did you know? And there's a connection. After talking to 900,000 students, you find there's a connection, a connection between the arts and mental illness. You're right. And the world has said, you know, take this, shut off that emotion, take this and it'll numb you, it'll make you normal. It's like, no, like, don't. I'm not always against medication, but like, don't just learn how to shut off that emotion, learn how to channel it. And you have to make that decision that you know, like, and I'll say this, a lot of people say I'm lucky, you know, I hate it, but on radio interviews all the time where they say, well, Rob, it was lucky that you got hit by a semi and that you died.
Because you're here now because of that accident.
Look at your new outlook on life. It's like, no, like, when people say everything happens for a reason, I'm not a fan of that. Because, you know, when people told that to me, that my accident happened for a reason, that brought me to this terrible place of trying to figure out this big reason why. And what I always say is that I don't think bad things happen for a reason, but I think they happen with potential, both good and bad. My accident had the potential to leave me angry, bitter, suicidal the rest of my life. Or there's a potential you can take your difficult time and let it turn you around. And, you know, Steve, you went same thing. You know, later in your life, like you said, he had a scare with cancer. Hope you're okay with me saying that. You know, and now you all of a sudden you go, whoa. And you
actually coming out on the other side of that is a lot of what made me have to examine my life, including knowing that probably stress in my life was a large factor in my getting cancer.
Sure.
And I'm past it now.
Right.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Coming out the other side of that was actually very hard for me. You would think it would just be like, woo, I'm done. But figuring out what was going on in my head took a lot of energy, and there was a lot of surprises, and a lot of things I found were things that I didn't know were there and that I didn't really like.
It was very interesting because you just said you step back and you analyze things. You realize you're putting yourself in stressful situations that didn't need to be stressful. Some people, again, would say, well, it's good that you got cancer. Hey, look what it did to you. It's like, no.
I'd argue with that.
Because that's, like, there's the potential. You could have gone into a why me, and we've seen it happen to so many friends and family, but you went, wait, I'm deciding to analyze things, look into what things are important, what stressed me out. And, you know, again, that happened with potential. And you made something good out of it. That doesn't always happen. Like, what doesn't kill you doesn't always make you stronger, but difficult situations can be a motivation for you, make you analyze things. But I don't think you have to get to that rock bottom place. Like, I can listen to your story and go, oh wow, that makes me rethink. You can hear my story, you know. And I've never had anyone say to me after a show, they say, Rob, I was hit by a semi like you and I have a metal head like you. No one's ever said that to me.
Yeah.
But they say, this guy's been through some shit, and so have I. He's talking about it, maybe so I help. maybe so should I. And
well, talking about it is actually my motivation for talking about it today, because I feel much like you, because you've talked about it, that I didn't need to go through that to get to where I am mentally now.
Right.
I could have done that without the bad experience.
Totally. Because there's no lack of stories out there, and that's why I tell my story when I so that people don't have to die like I did before they start to live and do things for other people. And again, you don't have to build a well in Africa. Like it's a phone call, it's an apology. You can start so small, but again, that feeds that oh, that felt good, and that's a new addiction that if you've never tasted it, it's a wonderful thing. And like for us now with the music that we're doing, like we're writing songs together with young people that have attempted suicide, eating disorders, self-harm, and we write this music showing that, look, not everyone with mental illness takes their life. Not everyone with an addiction overdoses, because that's all you hear in the media.
Sure.
That's the only time you hear about mental illness.
Yeah.
We have to balance that with stories of people that have gotten off the train tracks, ripped up their suicide notes. Mm-hmm. And as we perform, one of the songs that we wrote, it's called Thief of Colors, on the screens behind us as we perform. Now we perform in massive theaters and we bus schools in for these big shows. But on the screens behind us as we perform, we just this onslaught of videos from YouTube of kids ripping up their suicide notes and stuff, showing like, look, there's kids that have gotten through this, and you can get through this dark time too. You're not alone.
That's the message we don't hear on the media, which isn't necessarily the media's fault, but that's the message that you're delivering. And I think that that's the message that kids, everybody, but you're primarily talking to kids, but we're talking to everybody, that they need to hear is you can get to the other side of it. And it sounds corny maybe to talk about some of these things. When I talked about some of the things that I went through, I found that just so many people were thinking about some of these things too.
Yeah, and we all keep it inside, and then you think you're the only one dealing with it, and then all of a sudden you look around and you find out 1 in 5 of you. And you're right, the demons don't leave you alone when you become an adult. We just did one show open to the public, and a 71-year-old man gave me a suicide note, and I'm thinking, it's just a shame that adults don't come together for assemblies like students are willing to or forced to.
Yeah, well, I think adults feel like it's weak to come forward in that situation, and I think that's a lot of it. Like if you get cancer or a disease, you seek medical help. But if you feel like you have mental illness, you feel like you need to just push it down and be strong. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it's weak. Strength is definitely a part of the answer, but the strength to recognize what's going on and seek some assistance or some guidance. I just feel like as a society, we've created an environment where it's not very easy to come forward. In fact, in the making of what we're shooting right now, I was actually thinking, well, how much do I want to talk about my own anxiety issues? Why am I even thinking about that?
Well, those things get, and I think it's part of working within music though too. Like you're every day and you hear an expression through a lyric, through a song. Like maybe one day I inspire you, or I'm speaking about something that stirs you, and the next day you stir me in something. And that's why conversation is so important. And you're right, as adults, we don't want to talk about it. Like, there's not just a stigma that goes with the individual, with the family, and yeah, if your heart fails you, everyone comes running out.
Right.
The words that make it all better don't exist. It's just a willingness to be like, yeah, I have bad days. And even for me still, like I have days where I have massive struggles. And I always say, like, if you wake up in the morning looking for pain, you'll succeed. You'll find it. You get up in the morning, look for strength or hope or help, and you can find that too. But that's not a one-time decision. That's a daily thing. Like, what do you want to see today?
There's discipline in that. The moment you wake up, you can decide to make it a more successful day, or you can decide to not. And that won't always play out perfectly, but I found that I needed to train my mind towards having a positive day the second I wake up, to decide that I'm going to make it the best day I can. I don't mean that to sound corny, but you can get into a rhythm of pursuing that every day, as opposed to looking for the pain, looking for the hurt. Because like you say, if you look for it, you'll find that.
Yeah. And when you go to addictions meetings, what they teach us is, you don't try to get through a week or a month or a year. You say, just for today. Just for today, I'll fight. Just today, I won't use or I won't cut. Whatever that thing is, whatever that thief is in your life trying to steal your life, that's how you win the battle. Just for today, I can do this. When you shrink it down like that, all of a sudden you go through a week and a month and a year and you're going, hey, I'm here, and I matter. Because that's the other thing with mental illness. I think you can get any other disease or, like, again, your brain fails you or a heart attack or something. But with mental illness, like, there's some lie that happens in you emotionally where you think now you have nothing left to offer this world. And that doesn't happen in any other sickness. It's so common. I was like, oh, I don't matter. Like, because out of 800 suicide notes, the only thing they all have in common when you read them, they don't talk about wanting a bigger house, shinier car. They all say, I feel insignificant, or I don't have purpose, and I don't belong. But I think it's the opposite. I think we're all designed to be significant. We're supposed to do things for other people. But again, we've created an insignificant world, and young people are starting to say, this is it. There's got to be more to this world than this. And so we describe it as feeling insignificant, but it's like, no, you are significant.
But you have to go find that.
Yes. Daily. Yeah. And it's already inside of you. Like, a lot of people say, like, Rob, what does it feel like to change so many lives? I'm like, I'm not trying to change anyone's life. I'm trying to make people okay with who they are. If change is supposed to happen, conviction comes from within. That doesn't come from a stage or a pulpit,
Mm-hmm.
It comes from within.
I love to hear about what's going on in the stories, and they feed my soul on a couple levels. Like, it makes me feel like I'm contributing, which feels great. But there's, like, the stories are so engaging. And last year I spent some time on the tour bus with you, and I just, we're in here creating the music, which is really rewarding, but being out, meeting people, the young people, and seeing what's going on is very meaningful to, it's tangible. You can see the reaction from people. But one of the things I just wanted to touch on is it's okay to laugh.
Right.
Like, you especially deal with, like, a lot of heavy emotion on a fairly almost daily basis. And one of the ways that we get through that, because you come with some really heart-wrenching stories sometimes, and I've been on the phone crying, I'm be honest with you, and you knew that. But when we come and get together, there's always jokes. How does humor play into it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's key. Like, because life is a balance. Every day, every year, you're gonna go through good times and bad times. And if you watched our show, like,
it's pretty silly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not to be disrespectful, but no. You know that. And
yeah. Well, I kick off every show doing all the Family Guy voices and Adam Sandler and all those things, and like, yeah, so we're telling jokes and you're having fun, and you put on a concert, you tell stories, play music, and you take people's, guard down. People bring down their walls. Okay, this isn't just a don't do drugs thing. It's like, no, it's like, let's have some fun. Let's, through music, watch YouTube clips. And
to me, that's why it works. Because when I explain that my friend Rob goes to schools to talk to kids about mental health and making better choices, the look on people's faces is just like, that sounds so dumb. No, but really.
Oh, for sure.
Like, when you say just those words, it's like, how corny can you be? And you imagine some guy talking about talking in front of kids going like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, make a better choice, and go do your homework, right? And you can well imagine the response would be, are you kidding me?
Right.
And so I've actually had a very tough time conveying to people what that looks like. And so when I have friends that I think that would mean something to, as you know, I try and bring people out to shows. And one, they're really impressed with you, but when they watch the kids and the responses, especially from a select few that maybe are having some difficulties in their lives, the game change that happens for those kids, when people see that, it's like a rush of emotion. It's an aha moment, but it's so much bigger than that.
Right.
And I feel like the humor and the music are the gateways to opening that up, because it just doesn't feel like a lecture. And music, more than anything else, I think, transcends the words and penetrates into the emotional part. And the way that you touch those kids with the music, I don't know that you could accomplish that by just speaking.
No. You know, you look at any kid walking down a sidewalk or through the mall, everybody's got their earphones in, they're listening to something. And music has the ability to calm you down when you're ready to go to bed or pump you up before a hockey game. Like music affects you emotionally. If somebody pours themselves into a song through a certain emotion, I think that same emotion, you know, is communicating with your spirit as you listen to it. So yeah, music has this incredible effect. And yeah, we've tried to capture on video what we do, and people can, but it's until you see a concert and you can see it in the
because it's the reaction too, and you can't film they're in public, but it's a private kind of a moment that kids are having. So you can't plaster their faces on the internet. That wouldn't be fair.
Right.
But that's to me where I go to your shows, and it's like what I see is that connection that you made, and the way that you're able to, because that person, you use the word breakthrough, and that's so appropriate. That person can get to the other side and start working on themselves, because I think one of the big problems is until that happens, how do I fix what's broken?
Right. Yeah, well, you can have all the resources in the world around you, counselors and, addictions foundations or whatever you're dealing with. But if you haven't dealt with it yourself, that you've embraced who you are and that it's okay to talk about it, no amount of resources is going to be enough, because you have to first deal with it. I had to first deal with it myself and come to grips with it and be willing to say something out loud to somebody else, and once you do, it's like, it's one of these, why didn't I do that sooner?
Yeah.
Why didn't I start speaking about this stuff? Because it's the biggest lie, I think, in humanity, is that, don't talk about what you're going through out loud.
Well, it's so interesting, right? Because once I've seen how many times you've been able to get the conversation going, people have been dying to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, it all comes out, and it's amazing. They've been just waiting for the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and teenagers, like you said, like, come to a show, and at first, we'd set up in gymnasiums at schools at the beginning, and it's like, kids walking in and say, what's the catch here? What did he charge? How much did he make money? How much money did he make?
I mean, it's cool I got out of science class all, but...
But it's like, okay, wait, they didn't charge to come here? Oh, they're in debt? Okay, what are they going to sell us? And then we give out all our music for free at the end of the show, and they're like, oh, this is genuine. Okay, you got me. And now, like, again, we play these massive tour right now, going through all the big major cities, and we just, all these, school buses, we pay for the school buses and everything, and just good things happen as we just continue to do this tour. And that's exactly it, though. Everybody goes, oh, finally, thank you for talking about this. Not in some weird way. You're still joking around. You're a fun guy, but you're also speaking about serious things. And I'll tell you, the amount of students that tattoo the lyrics that we write together on their arms, where they used to cut, where they used to insert their needles, is remarkable. So nothing has ever meant more to me than see somebody tattoo your lyrics on their bodies. So to show them that same gift, last summer I had my tattoo artist take all the signatures off of the suicide notes that we've been given, and I filled this whole arm up. These are the signatures from the bottom of those suicide notes that we've been given. And I did this because I remember what it feels like. You feel like you're all alone. You're the only one with those thoughts. I want to be able to show people, look, like, you're not alone. These are all signatures of people that once had those thoughts too. They had written their notes, and they're still here, and they're conquering the world around them.
All those people got past it.
Right. Because there's something really remarkable about finding out that you're not alone. It sounds cliche, but man, when you see other names, and again, media only tells you the tragic stories, and you can learn from tragedy, but balance those stories of people that have made it through the darkness. That's what we all need. It's such a key part of anyone's breakthrough.
Right. Well, let's finish up with, I want to make a little disclaimer. We're not therapists. We're not counselors. We're not advising anybody what to do, except I feel like open the conversation. Yeah.
Again, it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Like, you think you're the only one dealing with this stuff, and this is what we see on this tour. Somebody opens up in front of us, and then their best friend of 10 years goes, You're dealing with that? Yeah.
Right.
So am I. Shut up. We've been friends 10 years.
Yeah.
And we've never talked about it. And what better place for that to happen than through music? Whether you're recording or on tour, like you spend hours together with people, you're talking, and there's such an opportunity to use these moments as moments that don't just tear you apart, but build you up and build up those relationships and surround yourself with people that have those same desires, with music. It's not just trying to find the people that are in the same genre as you, but it's finding people that are not just like-minded, but like-hearted, and I think that's what's been so great about this guy, and he won't brag about himself, but this guy has invested so many hours without ever having asked for $1 from us, and it's been amazing to watch, and I'm glad to hear that you're satisfied by it. But through music, if you're gonna have an impact, like if we told a story and then we played music and we sucked, like you're not getting a message out to anybody. Like, get good at your craft, but get good at that craft for a reason. Have some purpose behind us, have some why. Again, it doesn't have to be doing what we do, going to school, like perform, but throw in that song that means something. Have that moment in your show or in those conversations where you actually say something that matters to somebody in that audience.
And start and say something meaningful. And it's okay to write songs about having fun or partying or whatever. That's good too. I think my message would be, I would say, don't be scared to write about the serious thing, like the emotional thing. And one of the things that I think is difficult for artists starting out is the vulnerability, because when you put words on paper and actually say, this is what I'm feeling, you are putting your emotions out for display. You're opening your heart. And I think that can be difficult. And it was for me as a songwriter early on. Like, oh my God, I'm showing everybody what I'm thinking, and that feels really weird. But I think that's why the great songwriters that's why people connect with them, because it's like, oh my God, I'm feeling that too. And I know how much the lyrics mean to people with the tattoos on the arms, and I follow your social media and I see people talking about how saying something in particular meant something to somebody, and it's not necessarily the same thing with every person.
Totally.
But let's leave you with, just start, express yourself, and I have nothing but respect for you if you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with having fun and having a crowd, singing along, jumping around. Those are great moments, but there's nothing that'll satisfy you like knowing somebody's listening to some song in their difficult day. We all have those songs. You know what song you go to when you're having a tough day. To have that as being one of your songs for even a few people, that's what's satisfying.
Why don't you let us know what song gets you through a tough day, and share that with everybody in the comments.
If anybody knew what I was gonna do when they pushed me to